We say good morning and thank you for joining us on Breakfast Central this Thursday morning. We hope you enjoy the next 2 hours with us, where we bring to you some of the biggest conversations happening here in Nigeria. I am Osaogi Ogbawa.
And I'm Joe Hansen. Once again, it's Thursday morning. What to expect? Well, the stories are here, as a matter of fact. We'll be taking a look at some of the big stories. Nigeria's president had to take a trip out straight for the EU summit, for the AU summit, Africa Union summit. And aside that, there are indeed protests from one particular state to another. This has led to a lot of people talking about the cost of living, which is indeed unbearable. And Nigerians cannot keep quiet, so everyone is starting to speak. Coincidentally, even those who had supported the current ruling party are starting to speak very, very loudly that, listen, it is hitting everyone and it's it's coming closer to home.
I mean, elections have consequences. The consequences will not be felt by just those who didn't support the party. Everybody who is still, of course, in the country will, out of the country, you will, feel the consequences of the elections. If there are great strides being made by the government, if cost of living was a lot less, if people were, enjoying security, enjoying better education and all of that, everybody, will enjoy it. I mean, those are some of the things that would be part of the consequences of, your voting, or the elections rather. But if things are totally different, petrol is, hitting 700 naira pretty soon. I bought at 640 yesterday. The dollar exchange rate is 1,500 and above. Food stuff in the market, is almost, unaffordable for a lot of Nigerians. Those are still going to be the consequences. So regardless of what side of the table, whoever it is you campaigned or voted for, elections have consequences. So and everybody will have to deal with it. Of course, you're talking about the current president now going to the AU. The former president, the conversations around him are about his signature being forged. Which is, I've seen people react to that and say that it is mostly to, almost shield him from, the consequences, or rather from the crimes or the atrocities that were committed under his government. To make this whole picture of, every president is such a saint, they're all angels. Unfortunately, they had a few people that were trying to taint their image, were committing crimes, but the president himself is such a saint, he didn't commit any crimes. That's really what we're trying to once again do to ourselves as a country, to paint the president, in that light. And so I don't know that the people who are doing this, trying to shield the president from answering any questions, understand what it means to tell the world that the president's signature was forged by the CBN governor. I don't think they understand what that means. That's how easy it is, that a president's signature can be forged. And I was asking yesterday, how many more times did it happen? If this is true. How many other, heads of MDAs were forging the president's signature? And how long did that take place? And, which investor is going to come to a country knowing that, it's easy for the CBN governor to simply just forge the president's signature and shell out $6 million?
It's a strong indictment, very, very strong indictment. And it's part of our conversation today. We'll be having all of that here on Breakfast Central.
Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. About 60 members of Nigeria's House of Representatives are currently seeking amendments to the 1999 Constitution to transition from the current presidential system to the parliamentary system of government. The group of lawmakers, led by Honorable Wale Raji, identified the need for reducing the cost of government and robust policy debates, among others, as some of the reasons for demanding a return to the parliamentary system.
Titled the bills proposing constitutional alterations for a transition to a parliamentary system of government was sponsored by the House Minority Leader Kingsley Chinda and 59 others, and read for the first time on the floor of the House during yesterday's plenary session. The lawmakers, drawn from different party affiliations, anchored their positions on the need to adopt a parliamentary system of the federal, state and local government, and would significantly impact the national political landscape. Let's now bring in a guest who indeed joins us. He will be talking deeply on this right away. Now, he's taken his time out to also work to ensure that every single thing concerning this bill is one that everyone would benefit from. Please, thank you so much for joining us, Sonny, who joins us all the way from Abuja. We truly appreciate your presence here this morning.
Thank you for having me once again. Good morning.
All right. Now, for the benefit of those who are joining us for the first time, Anderson, is not able to join us yet. But then again, we'll have another guest join us in the course of this conversation. But let's go straight into this one without further ado. What's this bill? And we've read that it was read for the first time, the very first time. And then what was the reaction like? And what are people, other lawmakers saying? Because we heard it's only 60. What are the others saying? I'm sure you have a clear understanding of this, seeing that you're always working in hand with the lawmakers as well. Are you there?
All right. Thank you so much. If you can hear me, can you hear me loud and
Yes,
clear?
we can. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me once again. I must confess, that I've seen the bill, and the bill was read for the first time yesterday, and I must say that going by what is in the bill, I would say that the reasons for coming up with the bill is brilliant, and it's something that we have to look into. But however, when you're talking about cost of governance, that the reason why you're asking for a change from the presidential system of government to the parliamentary system of government is because you are advocating for a reduction in the cost of governance. I refuse to agree on that, because why I refuse to agree is simply because there are so many.
All right, Mr. Anderson Usibe, are you there? Oh, okay.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Please go ahead. We can hear you clearly.
Hello. Okay, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, now, basically what I was trying to point out is that in trying to reduce cost of governance, you don't change a system. Yes, you don't change the system from the parliamentary system of government to a presidential system of government to a parliamentary system of government, because the issue here is not about the change. The issue here is about the sincerity of purpose of the major key players, who are the politicians, right? Now, when we're talking about the presidential system of government, have we explored the presidential system of government to its fullest? This presidential system of government was borrowed from the United States of America. How is it being run in Nigeria, right? So I thought that what the sponsors of the bill ought to ask for, or agitate for, or advocate for, is not a change from the presidential system of government to the parliamentary system of government. What they should be asking for is on how we can reduce the cost of governance, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with the presidential system of government that we are practicing now in Nigeria. Reason being that we have not explored the presidential system of government to its fullest. We borrowed the presidential system of government from the United States of America. How does America run its own presidential system of government? Is it the same way that we run it in Nigeria? Nigeria is a heterogeneous society. Is it not high time that we sat down, we thought about a system that will work for us? Must it be presidential? Must it be parliamentary? If we sit down and look at our system and we decide on what system that best suits us in Nigeria. You cannot borrow a system from a people and it's not being administered the way it ought to go. Now, firstly, I thought that what the lawmakers ought to ask for are number one, ask for what do you call it? Ask for a reduction in cost of governance. That is one. Constitutional conference. That is two. To sit down and agree as a people a system that works for us as Nigerians. Yes, that's what we should be asking for.
But when you say
it's not a change.
When you say a system that works for us in Nigeria, you've also said that there's nothing, entirely wrong with the presidential system of government. we are just, not doing things the right way. It seems to be flawed. It gives the president, almost godly powers, amongst other flaws that, we've seen with being able to, maintain the presidential system of government. And I don't know that lawmakers that have, budgeted more than 300 billion naira for themselves in the 2024 budget will be the ones to be talking about a reduction in the cost of governance. There's that part also. But, I want, your thoughts on, I saw the response to this, and there's people who said that this is just a distraction, that there's many other, constitutional amendments that these lawmakers should be pushing for. There's many other things that they should be talking about in the National Assembly on how to improve on the quality of life of the average Nigerian. I'm not talking about, parliamentary system of government. So from your opinion, what other things do you think they should be talking about if they ever will get to, a constitutional amendment? If we'd ever get to a place where, okay, we're making adjustments to the Constitution, what are the most vital things, that would be the reason behind that?
Now, firstly, let's look at even the issue of rotational presidency, right? Now, you're practicing the presidential system of government where a particular sector feels that they are marginalized. Now, do they even have do they feel that they will even one day find themselves in the corridors of governance? You see, let me tell you, the major problem we have in Nigeria it's not about change. It's about the sincerity of purpose, like I said. Now, our politicians sincere with the system. In Nigeria, governance is seen as a means by which lawmakers come in or politicians come in to enrich themselves, right? In developed climes, governance is seen as call to service. That's the challenge that we have. Now, are we going to have a change of mentality? Are we going to have a change of mindset? Now, you talked about lawmakers that just increased their yearly budgetary allocation from almost 200 and something billion to almost about 300 and something billion, bringing up fictitious projects that even up to today, we are still questioning its relevance. We are still questioning its importance in the National Assembly budget. That's all we should be talking about. If you are talking about cost of governance, the cost of governance should start from the National Assembly. We should begin to advocate for a unicameral legislation. Yes, that will reduce cost of governance by half. That is one. We should also be talking about even a constitutional conference. The last time we had a very robust constitutional conference in Nigeria, because they didn't like the person who was president, they threw him away and threw the constituency, the report of the constituency conference away. You see, let me tell you, there's a need for us as a people to come back and look at what works for us. I just told you now that Nigeria is a heterogeneous society. You have different tribes, you have different regions, you have different people who come together under one nation. Now, that is not our problem. Our problem is not the change. Now, you're talking about the parliamentary system of government. Is parliamentary system of government, is it cheaper? It's not cheaper because for as long as the people, the major key players, the major stakeholders in this business don't have a change of mindset, are not sincere to themselves, are not sincere to those who they are leading, will continue to have the same problem. It's an issue of corruption, deeply rooted in our system, deeply rooted in our civil service, deeply rooted in all the three arms of government. Those are the problems.
Okay. All right. I think I get Mr. Anderson's point. Well, one of your points is that this shouldn't be a major conversation at this moment, and if it should, then they should be looking at a way of ensuring that they find what works. In other words, but then again, before you finish your thought, I believe you were almost wrapping up. I also want to ask that this same parliamentary system was practiced in 1960 all the way to 1966, way back where we did have the very first president, the late Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, and not forgetting to the late Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. A lot of people said things were much better then. And one of the reasons for this bill being pushed is as a result of the fact that people believe we could take it back to what it was in the glorious days to the 1960s, all the way to 1963 to 1966, and so on. Do you share a similar view, if at all, that Nigerians should look into this, and the lawmakers should also, the other lawmakers who haven't joined should also look at that as well? I don't know if you can hear us, Mr. Osebe.
Okay. While we're struggling with that, you know, I think the conversation generally, you know, is, you know, I mean, for me, when I saw this story, you know, I was mostly, you know, asking myself, you know, how important is this? You know, if we have a National Assembly, you know, we've had successive National Assemblies that people have, you know, just tagged rubber stamp, you know, that have not necessarily spoken the voice of the Nigerian people, haven't made policies or laws that have, in many ways rather, improved on the quality of life of the average Nigerian. And so, you know, when we hear about 60 of them now asking for a constitutional amendment for to change the parliamentary system of government, it might sound interesting, you know, for news stories. But how important is this, you know, for the average Nigerian now? In what ways does this improve on the quality of governance that Nigerians get to experience? And you've mentioned, you know, how it was in the 60s, fair and good. But what we've currently run since that time, it's not necessarily a terrible system of government. We've just mismanaged it. In many ways, we've mismanaged it. When we're talking about constitutional amendment, and there's people talking about, you know, restructuring, removing things from the concurrent list, you know, and all of that. Those are things that, you know, the National Assembly members, I believe, should be focused on, because that should improve on the quality of life of the average Nigerian. Yeah. Ms. Osebe, can you hear us clearly now?
Yes, I can hear you. I think I can hear you very clearly now.
Okay, all right. Kindly go ahead. You know, where Joe initially was asking about, you know, the time when we ran the parliamentary system of government and the argument that Nigeria seemingly was better managed in that time. You know, maybe that's the argument behind, you know, going back to that, you know, that era of governance. But, you know, I also got to mention, I hope you can speak on both of them, you know, the things that people have mentioned with regards to constitutional amendment have been the need to restructure Nigeria, the need to remove certain things from the concurrent list, you know, because these are the things that would seemingly give Nigerians a better quality of life. And if our National Assembly members aren't focused on those things, then it sounds like a waste of time, and they really do not know what they're doing in the National Assembly.
See, let me tell you, the presidential system of government, I don't have a problem with the presidential system of government. You know, why I don't have the problem with it is because it is one system of government that gives everybody the sense of belonging, right? And the major problem that we have is lack of proper execution. You know, I think firstly, what we should take care of in Nigeria is firstly to look at how we can decentralize the central. There's so much power in the central. There's so much power in the federal government. Now, it's simply because of also the lack of sincerity I talked about, right? You know, how much power does the state have? How much power does the local government have? You know, does it flow from the federal to the local government? You see, let me tell you, unfortunately, we are running a system where almost everybody wants to grab it all for himself. Nobody cares about the nation anymore. Because what I feel this lawmaker should be advocating at this point in time is, firstly, resource control, right? Through federalism, right? Constitutional conference, right? And a way to reduce cost of governance. Now, through federalism, what are we practicing in Nigeria? We see a system where every power is concentrated in the presidency. I think that's one of the reasons why they are coming up with they are calling for a change. Now, how do we go about it? What we simply need to do is to devolve power to the states, to the local government. Before the 1999 Constitution, Nigeria was on the path to progress. Nigeria was on the path to a robust society. But unfortunately, I think one of the major problems again that we have is the 1999 Constitution as amended. You know, there's no sincerity in the Constitution as amended. There's no way forward. You know, as I speak to you now, Nigeria is at the crossroads. As I speak to you now, even the lawmakers themselves don't even know what how to go about it. Even the presidency don't even, or the executive, they don't really know what's happening anymore. Because what the Tinubu's administration met on ground is something that will take years and years to repair, right? So I feel the lawmakers shouldn't be talking about presidential system or parliamentary system of government at this point in time. We should be talking about true federalism. What is true federalism? I should be able to go to my state. I'm from Delta State. I don't have a business doing in Abuja. What business do I have doing in Abuja? When I will go back to my state and think of how I can help my state to grow, right? I can go back to my local government and contribute my quota to the development of my local government. Why the state pay, pay royalties to the federal government? I think that is how presidential system of government is run. So now the presidential system of government, I don't think it has failed us, but I feel that we as a people will have to sit down and decide what system works for us as a nation, as a people. Yeah. That's the most important. That's what we need to do as a people. That's what we need to do as a nation. We sit down. What works for us? Is it the presidential system that works for us? Is it the parliamentary system that works for us? Even when you bring back the parliamentary system, it's still not going to work because the major players are not sincere. There's no sincerity of purpose. That's the problem. That's the challenge. Yeah. Okay? So it is not about the system. It's about the people. It's about the major people.
And that's exactly...
It's about the stakeholder.
That's exactly, why I initially said that. It sounds like, just, a sweet conversation to have. But this is not a serious, thing that is going to be done by the National Assembly. And like you said, and I think everybody agrees, the system is not the problem, or the style of government is not the problem. It is the persons who are in office. It's the fact that we've seemingly misused our presidential system of government, and we've not been able to achieve much with it.
Players so we need to have a change of mindset. All right, we need to go. Is it by the way of probably? Is it by the way of a constitutional conference? Is it by the way of telling ourselves the truth? We must sit down. We just have to sit down and down and say, look, what works for us as a people?
All right,
Anderson. What works for us as a nation? What are the things that we need? Right? Yeah. You cannot tell me that Nigeria will have a nation, a crude oil, a nation, that exports crude oil, and today people can't even buy a liter of fuel. Today our economy is going. In fact, I don't really know where we're headed. Every day you go to the market in the morning, by the time you go back in the afternoon, goods have increased. And we have a government, we have a system, we have lawmakers who are just concerned about what goes into their personal pocket. Come on, let me tell you. Let me ask you. Can't we start the course of governance from the National Assembly?
All right.
Now, let's even ask for unicameral legislation. Can we do away with the House of Representatives? Can we do away with the House of the Senate? And just do it one. We will reduce the cost of governance. Let's start from there. Yeah. Let's even start from their yearly budget. They have 344.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the nation that we know of. Yeah, unfortunately, the country that we are aware of, we're out of time for this conversation, but I know that the country that we're aware of, even if you remove the House of Representatives and leave only the Senate, with the motive of reducing the cost of governance, those hundreds of billions that were moved, were supposed to be saved by you removing the House of Representatives, will be moved to the Senate, and you will still have the same budget and probably even higher figures. Ms. Osebe, thank you very much for joining us. We will be speaking with you again. We'll see how these things develop, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, let's move on now to our next story. The cost of living in the country has indeed skyrocketed ridiculously amid a removal of fuel subsidy, and the federal government remains mute on how Nigerians survive daily. Last year saw distribution of palliatives that, in some states, never got to the recipients. Despite President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration assuring Nigerians of making life better, the average Nigerian is still suffering, while the harsh economic realities has made a mother attempt to sell her child and a young lady take her own life, not to mention others.
Now, earlier this month, hundreds of people took to the streets in Niger State and Kano State also to protest the rising cost of living and food. Finance Minister Olawale Edun, during an interview, said the government is concerned about the surge in prices, saying the only way to address the situation is to boost agricultural production.
Well, in December 2023, inflation reached a 27-year high, triggered by the rising cost of food items, a side effect of the increase in fuel prices and, of course, insecurity, where farmers are no longer able to go to their farms and are able to carry out their duties. Well, many Nigerians are asking, when will the federal government wake up? Let's further have this conversation this morning. If you are indeed affected, I'm talking about prices of toothpaste to bread, to toiletries and the likes. Our guest is Razak Fatai. He's an economist. Thank you so much, Mr. Fatai, for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, let's just go straight into the very first question. How do you think Nigerians will survive in the next few months? Being an economist, what do the indices portray? What do they show? Is it going to be slightly better or is it going to be even tougher? No hiding facts. Just be truthful and honest to us.
All right, thank you very much for the brilliant question. When I look at the cost of living crisis as it is, it's really a sad situation that we find ourselves here. And I'd like to give a bit of context. Then before I, advise on what would likely happen. What we've seen in Nigeria is a situation where over the last few years, especially since President Tinubu came in and some structural, some policy adjustments were made, we've seen some really big shifts. And what we've seen is, cost of living has increased, significantly. Household income is shrinking, as we've seen Nigeria's currency weakened significantly by over 60% between when President Tinubu came in and now. Income has remained flat, and in fact, when I look at the situation for income, using the minimum wage as an example, as of 2014, minimum wage was about $114 when you look at in dollar equivalent, but today it is around $20, right? And simple math shows that given that dramatic shift for a country where even before all of this crisis emerged, we used to spend about 60% of our income on food. One can imagine what that would mean on a household. It means significant hardship. It means eating less food. It means, eating less nutritious food. And it also means, being vulnerable to sickness and having to pay more for medical bills, which are even becoming unaffordable as well. And that's the situation we find ourselves in. And when I look at the underlying causes of this, they are very basic, right? And they are largely domestic, as some would even think that it's largely due to, some may think it's largely due to issues around the war in Ukraine and Iran. Well, those factors actually did affect us, made our situation. But when we look at the main driver of cost of living crisis, especially with regards to food, we would see that it is largely domestic. And I have examples, right, from the consumer price index. Right? If we look at the change in imported food and that of the total food basket, you will see that the total food basket has moved, more significantly than imported, suggesting that problems are largely domestic. And what are these domestic factors? Insecurity, and the fact that we are not producing enough crude oil, which kind of feed back into our trade and balance of payment in the form of continued depreciation of the currency, because if there is not enough dollars, it means that the currency will get weaker. And the fact that we also saw the removal of fuel subsidy, which meant transportation costs, was significant. Like to move a basket of food, from one location to Nigeria, in Nigeria to another, had always been expensive. But now with the removal of fuel subsidy, we see that is even much more expensive. And going forward, when you look at the numbers, they are not good. because again, I was looking in the news yesterday. The Minister of Power was saying that they cannot continue to subsidize electricity. That if they were to continue to subsidize, they will spend about 2 trillion for the year. Meanwhile, they only budgeted about 450 billion. And what that signal is that soon we should be expecting some major hike in electricity costs, right? If there's a hike in electricity costs, it means that companies have to, adjust their pricing templates, which means food items and other items, depending on electricity, would have to go up. Then another major indicator we also need to bear in mind is the fact that the currency may continue to get weaker, right? Because dollar supply is still not up to the level that should create sufficiency, right, to even address speculative demand. So if that's the case, Naira may continue to depreciate, which may also put further pressure. And finally, the fact that fuel subsidy, which President Tinubu removed subsidy when he came in, right now fuel is selling around 700. But when we look at the current pricing template, and the news is even already suggesting that the landing cost is now around $1,000. Should President Tinubu decide to, readjust that, that also means extra burden. And what that means is that the situation would continue to get worse, right? It will continue to get worse, and it's unlikely to abate in the next few months or even for the rest of the year. And what I would just like to say is that I think at this point, I think we should be having a lot of conversation about what needs to be done urgently, right, to address this problem. And we should also be talking about what are the coping mechanisms, for businesses, for households, and even for investors, right, who are looking to take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah, Mr. Fatai. I don't know about. I mean, coping mechanisms, might be really, really tough, because I don't think anybody expected that we're going to move, so fast, so quickly.
Yeah.
Move between buying petrol at 100, naira plus, to currently hitting 700 naira. I don't think anybody expected that. Just in about 2017, it was 87 naira per liter. This is a change that no Nigerian would have ever imagined that they have to deal with. The dollar is 1,540, and these aren't things that we would have ever imagined. So coping mechanism, I don't know. But I want you to, do you think that we would find a balance, as a people, as individuals, businesses, small and medium enterprises? Do you think that there'll be a time when we would find a balance? And what I'm asking that is because income is not improving. Salaries are not getting higher. The idea of increased minimum wage is still shaky. I don't know if that would bring anything. So would we find a balance in maybe 2 years, 3 years, maybe at the end of the first 4 years? Or does it look more likely that Nigerians will reach that breaking point where they would say, enough is enough, we can't continue like this?
Okay, thank you. There are two questions in one, whether we find a balance and whether before we find a balance, there will be a breaking point, right? So let me start with finding a balance, right? So history has it that, countries do go through business cycles and usually economic shocks are bound to happen. Also, sort of crises are bound to happen, right? There was a time in the world where the World War II that claimed millions of lives. People died of hunger, but what followed after was, a period of boom, economic boom. And just to say that, this is a cycle, right? Nigeria will definitely, come out of it at some point. But the question now is whether we would reach our breaking point before we come out of it, right? So the thing is, when you look at all the indices, the macroeconomic indices that defines whether there would be stability in the country, there are three major that I want us to look at, right? The first one is the crude oil production, which currently underpins economic stability in the sense that whatever happens to crude oil happens to Nigerian economy. So that's one. Then the other one I would also want us to look at is aside oil production is security, right? Which is also fundamental for people to do business. And then the last point, which I want us to look at, is the issue of monetary policy, right? So when we look at those three indicators, right, for the first one, the crude oil, we continue to face shortages, but what we've seen is that despite that, there has been some, compensation through price increase, which has helped us to restore positive trade balance, right? And what that means is that between the coming years, if we sustain that positive trade balance, despite the fact that there has been massive capital outflow, there might be some form of support for the fact that there has been some stability from trade. But notwithstanding that, we need to do something drastically about restoring crude oil production to historical levels, right? To consolidate on that particular pillar. The other pillar that I mentioned is security, which has continued to deteriorate and very concerning. But notwithstanding, I think the government is trying to do something about that, right? I think the question is about how fast they quickly curb this issue so that it doesn't escalate further, right? Security is driving farmers away from their settlement, making them to produce less food. And then the last pillar, which is monetary policy, we saw, during Emefiele's era, how they printed so much trillions of naira. In fact, which is one of the reasons that has made the inflation, the current cost of living crisis, worse than what it should have been, right? Because if we had left it to just, other factors like insecurity and the rest, I don't think we should be in the situation that we are in, right? Trillions of dollars were printed that was not backed by productivity, right? And we are suffering the consequences, like with higher price. But we've seen the new central bank governor has committed that he's not going to print any money to support.
All right, Mr. Fatai.
So
yes, Mr. Fatai, thanks for. I mean, you've helped us with a complete breakdown of I mean, where all of this is coming from and so on. We just have very few more minutes to go. The layman on the street just wants to know what his fate is, and that's what we want to do this morning.
Okay.
What is the fate of the vulcanizer, the teacher who is currently at school now, or possibly is watching from a TV screen on the phone, tying in to see, okay, what my salary do for me? What's the hope? Is there any hope that things will get better? You've said it before, that it's going to get worse, but we want them to really understand from an economist, looking at everything. If it's going to get better, when exactly?
Yeah, so I was going to conclude after talking about the monetary to say that when you look at all those factors, there are signs that there will be stability, right? Maybe not this year, but likely in the year after, right? And what that means is that for the vulcanizer are there, for everyone out there who are hoping to see some progress. I mean, just for them to encourage them to just hold on, right? And while holding on, you want to make sure that they cope in various ways, whether look for other alternative sources of income or find ways to save or take advantage of seasonality, like buy things when they are cheap, or work with cooperatives to buy stuff in bulk and share and so I feel like what Nigerians need to focus on now is how to cope, because this situation is inevitable. But to say that, in the coming years, things are definitely going to get better, right? With some of the indices that we are seeing.
Yep.
And there's a word of caution to say that should the government derail, right, in following through with some of these reforms, it's the possibility that things might even get much worse, right? And I won't expect the government to do that anyway. I will expect them to be responsible, to continue to do things that would help create relief for.
Yeah, I mean, but that is when you've seen a trajectory of government that is willing to take those steps, a government that understands where we are, a government that understands what is at stake, and how much it needs to save, to protect Nigeria's income. The current administration doesn't seem to understand these things. It's not the same current administration that is budgeting hundreds of billions for the National Assembly that you would imagine they understand what's at stake. The teacher that you spoke about that needs to join cooperative, he doesn't deserve that. He didn't wake up one morning and expect that his life would change so drastically and he can no longer feed his family, can't buy bread anymore to feed his wife and kids. simply because, of government policies that weren't backed up with anything. Because the policies you're speaking about now, they didn't have any backup. There's nothing that was meant to somehow, some way cushion the effect of these things. It's simply statements like, oh, you tighten your belt, things will be worse before they will get better. But we're not seeing that the government really, really understands or is making the moves, taking steps. The budget is not any different. There's nothing different with the way, the approach towards governance compared to the Muhammadu Buhari administration. There's nothing is different. And so what you've painted this morning is more and more and more suffering. If we need to improve on crude oil production, is there anything you've seen in the last couple of months that shows that the government is taking steps to improve on crude oil production, so that we can maybe earn more dollars? Is there any steps that you've seen in the last couple of months that shows that we understand how much we need to improve on agricultural production and we're going to make sure that Nigeria is safe enough? There's really nothing much. And that's why I said that the teacher doesn't deserve this. He doesn't need to join cooperative. I mean, it was a professor a couple of days ago that was complaining about not being able to go to Ivory Coast because she will probably have to save for 5 or 7 months on her professor's salary before she can go to Ivory Coast. No Nigerian deserves that. And these are all errors that have been put in place or made by our leaders. So from what you've said, the best that the Nigerian can do is pray that things get better. But if it is from what we are seeing on ground, it's not going to happen this year, maybe not would happen next year. And we are expecting that there will be another increase in petrol price in the next couple of months. Yeah. Seeing that the landing cost, of course, has now been it's obvious that we're still paying subsidy. So no matter how we try to romance, this conversation, put lipstick on it, there's no near future that shows that things are going to get better. Is this what we're going to agree on?
So the thing is, I would partly agree with you for a number of reasons. I'll partly agree with you for a number of reasons because even when government fails, right? Evidence has shown that at times, private sector and the public can step in ways of, coming with innovations to solve problems, right? But notwithstanding, what the government should be doing is to get us out of this crisis as soon.
Mr. Fatai. Anyway, network challenges there, but I think we get the point. So far, so good. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Razak, for helping us paint a clear picture of what the current economic situation looks like and where we're going. In conclusion, with what the economist has said this morning, we should be looking at roughly till next year when things will try as much as possible to settle. Kind of like reminds me of what one of the senators said, that the economy is... Remember,
but it's not even convincing enough, to say next year, because how many months after the election? It's 10 months. We're about 9, 10 months. So there's nothing convincing us that by next year. And that's why I was saying earlier that, listen, if you see that this is what the president has said, this is what the government has said, that we need to remove subsidy. But in the interim, this is the steps that we're taking to ensure that it doesn't sting so much. It will sting, no doubt. We need to, make these economic policies, with the CBN. But these are the steps that we will take to ensure that, it doesn't sting so much. But how are we improving on security? How are we making more money as a country? How are we saving money as a country? There's nothing, and that's what I was saying to him, that we can't see anything in the current administration that convinces the average Nigerian that in 6 months, in 1 year, in 2 years even, so I don't care if it is 4 years, but at least let there be signs that, yes, it actually will be better. We would improve on our crude oil production, and maybe hit 2 million barrels per day, maybe 2.5 million barrels per day or something. We would do these things. We would improve on security. We would invest more in agriculture. We would be able to feed ourselves. Those little basic things, that the government can say, okay, this is a must that we must achieve, something we must achieve in the next 1 year. Yeah. And once we do those things, we would see an ease in the cost of living. I don't think that any Nigerian can see the current administration doing all those things. There's nothing. There's no sign whatsoever that they really would put all those things in place. Instead, we hear, different stories and distractions, every other day.
Anyway, You're watching Breakfast Central on News Central. We're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. And you can be part of the show this hour by calling the number on the screen and react to the top stories, most importantly, the front pages of the newspapers, which is where we're going to. We do have our guest who's in-house and he's joining us this morning. He is indeed here with us as publisher CKN newspaper, Chris Kaden-Wanju, looking all, you know, I don't know what to, would I say crystallized?
Well, calm down. Calm down. Good morning. It's nice to be here this morning.
Good to see you. I mean, a lot of reactions, a lot of stories to react to, from moving to presidential, from president to parliamentary to subsidy on. Anyway, let's go straight to our very first paper. That's where we're going to go to. So let's bring up our first paper for you this morning. We're looking at the Daily Trust. Nigeria sitting on a keg of gunpowder. Sultan now speaks up. And many are saying, why didn't he speak up 8 years ago? But then again, he goes there to say, we'll distribute 42,000 megatons of grains for free. Federal government tells citizens. That's another story in between, aside from the fact that the Sultan says Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. Take note, it's all bordering on the hardship that every single Nigerian is facing. No crashing food prices is better. No, crashing food prices is better. I beg your pardon. Crashing food prices is better, experts are saying. But questions and questions abound from this statement. Can NBA demand concrete action? I did see the press release from the NBA yesterday. I'm sure CKN, I mean, you're a lawyer now. You're a lawyer, so of course this is equally what you'd be excited to talk about. Zulum Abiodun Sanwo-Olu unveil measures. On the front page there you can see pictures, military bus gun factory in Plateau State. Nigeria has been looking forward to, focus on arms and so on. But then again, little did Nigerians know that there's a gun factory somewhere in the northern region. And there it's been captured. You see the picture there on the front page. Let's start off first with this very first story before we go to others. Nigeria sitting on keg of gunpowder. The Sultan speaks.
Yes, Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. But for me, I think that the leak has started. And it's just waiting for explosion. We are not just sitting on it, the leak. You start with leaks, then before you now have the full explosion. If care is not taken, within the next few weeks, months, we're going to see a lot of explosion because the way and manner things are going, Nigerians are not smiling at all in whatever sphere. And everybody. I was saying here last week, I said before we used to have the high, the middle, and the lower income, but now, it's the upper and nothing again to this. It's either there you are or here. And it is getting very, very annoying because let's even take, for instance, I'm sure you must have seen the viral video that went viral yesterday where people were fighting over bread in Lagos.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yes.
You see that?
And cane. They were using cane to flog them.
Yes, they were using cane to. That's Lagos,
bread.
Central Lagos. People are struggling to buy bread and they were using cane to flog them. That is bread, the most stable food, what ought to be the most stable food in Nigeria you can't get. And they say it's because it's so expensive and there's somewhere where it's going to be gotten cheap. The aggregate bread now, which used to be the cheapest. But now, look at the queue, thousands and thousands of people. And there have been instances where in certain countries, bread had led to revolution. Bread, just the price of bread. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah,
So you have to look at it from that. What happened in the Asia country, in Africa, some other African countries, the wave that we had in North Africa some years back, Arab Spring. How did it start? Hardship. Somebody came out and just set himself ablaze on the streets of, I think, Tunisia or Algeria, one of those countries, and that was how it started. And it affected. So our leaders have to be very, very, very careful, And but you just say normally, as we say in Yoruba, yimu. Lori rock.
It's mostly because we've been sitting on this keg of gunpowder for at least 20 years. We've been sitting on keg of gunpowder for so long.
No.
Now, there's always a little more elasticity for the average Nigerian.
No. Let me tell you, it has never been this bad.
I agree.
It has done.
I agree.
Bros.
In 2012, that's what they said. Also, it has never been this bad.
Bros.
You remember during the protest, they said the same thing. It has never been this bad. When I remember that I still see tweets of people saying Jonathan has made the dollar exchange at 214 naira. It has never been this bad. God save us from this man.
Let me ask you. Let me have it. did you ever envisage that there were going to be NSAS? No, let me
course
ask.
not.
No,
Of course not.
did you? So that is it. Oh yes, it has been happening from 1960 to so. Did you ever, when NSAS started, did you ever envisage that?
No.
It's something that starts. You don't. It's something you don't envisage. You don't need to call anybody.
I agree.
You understand what I mean? That's how it starts. It's not just how long he has taken or how long he has been suffering. It just takes just a lingual, just a snap idea, and that is it. And the protests have started. All this one you're talking about, did you see protests? There was protests in Niger State. There will be protests in some parts of Lagos. There was protests in Osun State, and it's spreading. And you think it's just a joke, and before you know it, it spreads all over the country, and that becomes a business. So what I'm saying in essence is that the government, we don't need the Sultan to tell the wife of the president that Nigerians are suffering. Even if the wife of the president doesn't know, doesn't she have relatives? Is it everybody within the Tinubu family that are rich? Is it everybody within the government, those ministers and those? Didn't they come from villages? Don't they have villages? Don't they have people that are dependent on them? The situation is so dear, very, very dear. Yeah. And what we've been hearing is that government is on top of it, release the normal language. They just remove, it's the same statement, right from 1960 till now. Oh, okay, we're going to open the reserves. We're going to release grain from the reserve. And where are those grains? When you talk of grain, what are even these grains that I always talk about? Now rice, now beans,
rice and corn, and
corn and the millets and the rest of them. Have you to go and check out the price of gari, this ordinary gari? Go and check out how much is a mudu. You know the mudu of gari. Go and check out how much is the mudu of gari. Yeah. The most stable food in Nigeria. Go and check out how much is it. Rice is going to about 80,000 naira per bag. It has never been this bad. And that's what I'm saying. So it's not a question of what happened 12 years ago, what happened. You push people to the wall. It gets to a point that, what we used to say in the local palace now, you go push a ram. You go push at the ram na mumu. You go push and push and push. It gets to the wall. It bounces. The ram that will bounce back. You'll be shocked by what will happen. Right. Let us not get to that point. That is my point.
Well, hopefully it doesn't. And I hope that they also understand what needs to be done to, of course, ease the suffering and the pain that Nigerians are dealing with. The phone lines are active. You could join us, share your thoughts with us if you have your own views on how the government is handling Nigeria's current economic challenges. And of course, how you also are having to make adjustments here and there, with your living standards. Military burst a gun factory in Plateau State. I think we could speak on that before we move to another newspaper.
Yeah, that is not the first time. There have been several, in fact, in the past, it used to be Kogi State. Kogi, Lokoja area and the rest of them, a lot of guns are between factories and it's true. And most of these criminals are now manufacturing most of these things internally because the access to fund to bring in, to buy these guns is become to an AK-47 at some time we had in the past was over 1 million or 2 million or something like that. I don't think they have the funds to be able to do that. So what they are doing now is having a local manufacturing of those things. And that's why we have to be very, very careful. We have to be very careful. And I also hope that the custom and those at the port are also doing the needful in terms of making sure that all those things coming in that is why we talk about the what do you call it now? There's this big scanner that we're being taught about that was paid for. I don't know that they've gotten it now because what we are still doing is manual searching of containers. In other climes, you don't do that. If a big 40-foot container comes in this thing, you just go through the scanner. Within 30 seconds, it's gone. The scanner will dictate what it will show you everything. It's just like the body scanner at the airport. You walk into the airport, you just enter. These days, nobody even says, raise up your hand, and nobody searches you again. Just go through the airport and the formalities, and the scanner will just see everything inside you. Those that are having drugs, it will tell you that there are drugs, you have drugs inside them. So the same thing with the airport, the ports, because I know for sure that so many of these things are being passed through the port, and also the porous borders.
Porous borders, yeah.
Those are the fundamentals. So kudos to the security agencies. But the question I will ask is that those that were caught in this factory, what happens to them? And that has always been the issue. We see it on the front pages of newspapers. We talk on it on television, radio. Within 24 hours, 48 hours, we've forgotten and move on as if nothing happened. And nobody asks questions. Those that were arrested, what happened to them?
I've just seen, Babagana Zulum, a quote from him saying that the repentant terrorists, swore by the Quran that they wouldn't go back to terrorism, and so, should let them.
There was those that swore also that went back. the heart of man, you cannot determine the heart of the man. That is basic. There was those that were so repentant and we said they're repentant. After that, they saw, you read now, they went back. Some came back and even killed people and also now went back. So for me, we are just, the way we are handling the issue of security is not the way it is done in other parts of the world. By that you do that and give people amnesty, you embody them. Because I know that, for goodness sake, how do you feel, how will somebody feel seeing somebody that killed his father or his mother walking scot-free just because, within the community. You kill your father, you kill somebody's father, mother, children, kill 5 of the children and the rest of them, and the next thing they say, they've granted the amnesty. How will you feel as an individual seeing the person walking the streets?
I mean, even in the biblical times, when you carry out such actions, we know what follows.
The consequences is there for you to. The consequences is there. So we are not going about it the right way, giving amnesty to people that it is not. Instead, let us get concentration camps, build more concentration camps, and keep them there. It's true. You have to take them off the streets.
All right, let's go to the Guardian newspapers, so we can find the big one there, of course, talking about the forex crisis and how it's affecting other things. It says forex crisis pushes petrol subsidy to 907.5 billion naira monthly. The same subsidy that they said is gone. It's currently at 907.5 billion naira monthly. And of course, the Guardian with nice infographics sharing with you what the petrol prices are like and the things that determine the petrol prices. For like 617 naira per litre, 28.9% inflation also stated there. We can no longer pacify Nigerians over hunger and hardships, Sultan warns. We can also find here, Senate begins constitution review as reps canvass return to parliamentary system in 2031. Interesting. Out of school children epidemic and 68 billion naira UBEC fund. Power sector between subsidy, cost reflective tariff and service delivery. Electricity tariff to double as federal government reconsiders, or rather considers hike over debt burden. Anyway, let's stop there and address this one first. Remember, you could join us. You could call those numbers on your screen or tweet at News Central TV. Let's know your views on these stories on the newspapers this morning. Let's talk about the power crisis and, of course, the idea of electricity tariff, doubling, as, of course, the government is talking about taking over the debt burden or dropping the debt burden.
I think our leaders are some of the most wicked and insensitive that you can find in a part of the world, with all sense of responsibility. I'm a journalist, and I know what I'm saying. In August, I'll be 57, so I've seen it all, as far as I'm concerned. So I know be 40-year-old boy or 30-year-old boy. I've seen it, bros, I don't see them. So this set of leaders, I'm not just saying, not just this set, I'm talking of leaders, our leaders, are the most insensitive. Let us even go to the issues as well. Let us start with the issues. They told us that the subsidy on petroleum was removed or would be removed or was removed when the president came into power, 29th of May, 2023. And you saw the effect all over. Everything went off the roof, went off the window, and we are still suffering it today. The same government that said that it doesn't believe in subsidy. The front page of the Guardian is telling you now that 900 and something billion have been paid.
And IMF said something yesterday as well.
IMF said something about that. Okay, let us even ask that, okay, subsidy was removed. The so-called trillions and trillions of naira that was made from removal of subsidy, what was the effect? Have you felt the effect? Have you seen that effect? A minister of power is coming today and say, oh, we are paying so much, over 3 trillion of naira on subsidy on power. We need to remove subsidy. And I ask him, the first question I ask is that, how many megawatts has he generated since he came into power as a minister? That should be the question we should be asking. How many has he generated since he became, he's going to 1 year now. How many megawatts? This is a minister that we've had the worst number of national grid collapse since he came into power. Practically every week. I'm sure you didn't have power. I don't know when last you had power in your house. Every week we're having collapse. So instead of looking at the issues, looking at the fundamentals, he's talking about removing. Everybody wants to remove subsidy. Which simple subsidy are you talking about? Do you know how much Nigerians are paying for power? Do you know how much Nigerians are paying for power? And they say they are subsidizing. We cannot generate and transmit more than 4,000 megawatts of light in a country of 230 million. South Africa that just barely about 40 million people. Guys, how many are we saying? I was in Cote d'Ivoire. How many is Cote d'Ivoire? Is just about 30 million people. Yeah. The light did not blink for almost 1 week that I was in Cote d'Ivoire. It did not blink one bit. It's a West African country. I was in Accra, Ghana about 2 years ago for Afrima, the music award. I was there for over 1 week. Power did not blink one bit. Those African countries, I'm not talking, I don't even want to talk of America, because every time we say America, London, just, Africa, West Africa. And somebody is shamelessly talking about removing our subsidies. Then the next thing they're going to remove the subsidy is the subsidy on the air we breathe. Maybe we could die. I think these guys they're not getting their priority right.
So do you think it's a way that the government is trying to mop up more funds? Is there some narrative that we're not aware of?
Let me tell you, in the Bible, I think it was it the son of Solomon or Solomon? I can't remember now. That the people of Israel came to this and said, during your father's time, we had issues, we had blah, 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 I don't know how they put it. So we are begging you to please. The guy, I think it was Jonathan, the son of
son of Solomon.
Made
it harder for them.
The guy said he will make it that, in fact, that if his father was using Koboko, that he will be using, I don't know what he said he was going to be using, and the rest of them. That is what we're having now. But at the end of it, what happened? What happened to that man's regime? At the end of it, you saw how he died. Because the people of Israel suffered under him. He died a mysterious death. So, whether we're talking, we know there is hardship, but in every country of the world, there's something they subsidize. Yes. In the US, they subsidize agriculture. In Germany, they subsidize power. They subsidize power. And that is why you see that when Russia and Ukraine were having issue of this war, you saw what most of the European countries started doing, because they were importing a lot of gas from Russia. Quickly, they started finding a way of going about it. But also remember that they have to be able to subsidize the power sector in their countries, and they did everything possible. So somebody wants to subsidize 4,000 megawatts. It's not even up to 4,000 again. Because it's even what we have now was short of what this current government met. Yeah. So you are not talking of how to bring to improve generation. You are not talking about how to be able to improve distribution. What you are much interested is to remove subsidy. And remember vividly that the discos, they had a meeting, and that particularly on a monthly basis, they were increasing the tariffs on electricity. Before, they were telling Nigerians, they no longer do that. What they just do that, if you go and buy your units, 200 units, recharge, go and buy and check again when you buy next week. And it's not that the power is improving, no. It's getting worse. It's not at the power, because if you are, let us even in a month, 30 days, that in the past we are having less, give and take, maybe 15 days, 20 days. You can't even have power for about 5 days now, in a month. And you are paying more. Then what are we talking about? So I think the president should cut some of the, I have said it time and time again that the problem we have is leadership. People say for leadership, it's not what of it. Leadership is our problem. If this is the kind of cabinet that president took so much time, our president was, the president knows it all, he's going to get the best hands, and you bring this kind of people to be able to administer these ministries, and they don't even know their left from the right, then we're back to square one.
It's a tough one. We're really back to square one. Earlier on, you did talk about how Nigerians gathered for the main staple, bread, and how it could lead to a lot of problems, especially increase in protest and the likes. Let's take a look at that video where it happened in the heart of Lagos Island, where people were actually gathered to receive bread. Take a look.
Hey, bread 100 naira Ghana career because of 100 naira bread. Hey, Nigeria. Hey! Now wow, because of 100 naira bread. Hey! See Nigerians, God day. That bread that they share like this for inside Lagos Island. Abibi Oke Street. 100 naira bread. Trio, Abi. Trio Street for Lagos Island. See as the flog person because of 100 naira bread. Hey! Nigeria don't spoil. See crowd. 100 naira bread. Hey! See. This one na Yoruba line, then they flog Yoruba people like this. Yoruba line. See Hausa line for back. See Hausa line for back. Just for them to be online.
All right, so
that's
I'm sure you've seen that. Very sad.
I sincerely, I don't know what to say. Sincerely, I don't know what to say because I'm getting so emotional this morning, and I asked myself, why is it that God caused Nigeria, quote and unquote? Why is it that Nigeria as a country full of so much potential, people, there's practically nothing you cannot, natural resources, there's practically nothing you cannot get in this country. Why is it that we are so, quote and unquote, cursed? And it has to do with leadership. I continue to say it. If you get people that show purposeful leadership, then followers will follow. What is it that you can't get in Nigeria? We have oil, we have gold, we have iron, we have... Look at that. Let me tell you, if you just drop something, just drop corn, just in front of your house in Nigeria, it will germinate. You don't need to just put it on. It will germinate. That is how blessed the Nigerians is. So you ask yourself, what is the problem? What is the problem? Our leaders are living so large, buying SUVs and the rest of them, and you still tell these people that, oh, we have to tighten up. And you know the most annoying part of it that is so annoying these days now? They say that, oh, it will get worse before it gets better. That's what they have been told now, that it will get worse. So must we all die before it gets better?
And it's never really ever gotten better.
How? You know, in what way will it get better?
That's the
It's the fallacy. It's a fallacy.
It's never gotten better.
It's a fallacy. What has gone up? What price? Give me one single commodity in Nigeria that the price has gone up and never come down.
Transportation.
Which one? Where?
It never came down.
That's what I'm saying. I said, which one? Now tell me.
I'm trying
to. Because even the transportation, you remember for transportation, at one time they say 50% rebate.
It never
happened.
It never happened. In short, I know someone who wanted the bus and the driver told him, I go come on your
You go come on your, you go come down for this bus. You go come down for this bus.
Is the government buying fuel for me?
Dollar from 700 last year, 1,500 and something.
Times two.
Times two.
First of all, from 214 in
I don't even talk. No, I don't even talk last because if they. I
don't want us to normalize 700.
That's what I'm saying. So that is even we are told, with time, with all the measures being put. Somebody was saying with all the measures being put in place, that will come to 600 for where. And that has been the. Nobody is coming out to tell you what the problem and what the solutions are. Instead of looking for that is the problem. That is the problem with this current government. Nobody is coming out to give solutions to the problem. Rather, they will say, "Oh, we are working on it. We are working on it." This economic team have tried everything humanly possible. It's not working. Central Bank has practically tried everything possible. The naira is not. The dollar to the naira is not working. And you're asking food prices. We are not talking about commodity board now. Fixing price. How are you going to fix price?
How are you going to fix price?
How are you going to fix price?
So when you said earlier that, the quality of persons that have been put in government, in your opinion, you said that they were, terrible, they were the worst or something like that. Do we have a situation where no matter who it is that you put in to head these ministries, for example, power, and head, labor, and head health ministry and education, that almost nothing would change? That it's not the persons who are there that is the challenge. It is just the way that the system runs. For example, if we don't change the way our budgeting system works to improve on the funds allocated here and there, don't expect magic in the power sector.
Not just power sector. Let me give you a classical example. Pre-1999 was military. We knew what the situation was, and until Obasanjo came in. Look at the economy, the way he handled the economy. He brought people that knew so much about the economy. Bipartisan. Whether it's not PDP or whatever parties there, where in government, ACN or whatever there. He brought people that had the wherewithal, and they sat down. That was the days of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. That was the day of Obi Ezekwesili. Soludo. That was the days of Soludo. That was the days of Nasirian Rufai, who was in charge of BPE. There were so many of these young men. Because the military practically bastardized Nigeria as it were. You knew that.
Yeah.
It was, things were really, really bad. Most people have forgotten. In 1999, when Obasanjo took over, I won't say that he did everything or he performed. He performed. In the power sector, I know that he didn't do well.
And if you look,
But listen, the revolution we are talking about telecom today was under
that's even if you look at the economic
the only thing we've really-
indices, since 1999,
That is
he
it.
still has the highest. He still has the best.
That's what I'm telling you. That is it. Nobody, that is what I'm telling you.
That's no carrier.
That is what I'm telling you. That is what I'm telling you. So it's about leadership. Let's even take it back a bit. When he took over, funny enough, it was just yesterday I realized that 13th of February made it up about 40-something years that Murtala was killed. I never I've forgotten. 1976. When Murtala Muhammad was in the saddle for just about, I think, 1.5 years or whatever, very, very short time, Olusegun Obasanjo took over. Within the period of how many years that he was there, you had the Nigeria Airways, you had the Nigerian shipping line, you had most of the fundamental things that we have, including the first stack. Mm-hmm. This first stack, this, what's that? No, this was the National Theatre.
Yeah.
First stack, all the so-called first stack town and FHA, housing estates that are still in. That was the period we got up to 1979, where you are still having the Jakonde estates.
Who
Jakonde estates that are still.
Yes.
Those are leaders with vision. Are you saying that they have more money then than we have now? No. So it's leadership. It's about leadership. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. It's about leadership. If you get the right people, it's not just my person. It must be my person. It must be my town. It must be my person from Imo State. Since I'm from Obo in Imo State, so when I become a governor, I'm talking not, and we should be careful. We should not just be talking about federal government. We are talking about state government. We are talking of local government. Because the same thing that's happening at the federal level is happening within the state. Yeah. Because if we are getting the right within the state and local government, and ask yourself, critical question. Since Tinubu came into power, the state have not had this good. Allocation from FAC.
Immediately.
You could see the high rise in allocation of FAC to each state now compared to what they were receiving before because of the oil subsidy. The question you also ask yourself, what have these governors done with what they've gotten? So that we're not just spilling that to only federal government. For state government also have their blame. These governors, what they do, once they get this FAC, but some of them quickly just pay a small salary and rush and use the money to buy dollars and warehouses. That's what we're hearing. No development going on in the states. None of them is sharing palliative. Government talk about palliative. Femi Falana came out to say that money was given to governors in December last year. The COVID, whatever. Yeah. What did they do with it? There have been instances where the federal government gave some kind of palliative budget money to state governments at a point, gave them, not even borrowed them, gave them. What did they do with those money? We are not holding our leaders accountable. And that is why they are behaving the way they are. Now we are talking of, let's go to parliamentary. Let us even go to that, because that was a short. Let us talk of the constitutional amendment. My brothers, our problem is not the system of government we are practicing. Yeah. Our problem are the people that we put in place to lead us. Yeah. Well, if you bring the parliamentary system, the same thing that is happening is going to change. Now they are talking, they are not, have you read some of these things? Now the parliament will decide, we elect, we pick who will be president, who will be prime minister. Governor. Then they also will pick who is going to be governor. So those of us, Nigerians, will now sit back and wait for them to pick. This so-called legislators that we're having now, these ranks of people at the National Assembly and the State Assembly, these people are the ones that are going to. All right, the problem is not the system we are practicing. Mr. The problem is those that are practicing it.
We totally agree. We need to wrap up. Thank you very much for your time, as always. We apologize for not bringing you happy news. It's the Nigerian newspapers. It's, there's, nothing too cheerful, and then, but, thanks very much for your time once again.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back with the newspapers again tomorrow.
It is our duty as journalists to always bring this to the fore. Absolutely. Whether we like, because we are the fourth state of realm. Exactly. Nigerians don't have a voice. We are the voice of the people, and we say what is going on in the street. Thanks very much for having me. Have a wonderful day.
All right, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we continue this morning with Breakfast Central.
All right. right, so it's time for us to take a look and see what Nigerians are saying. And we're going to start off with one other story, having gone through that newspaper review where, of course, very heated. But let's start off with this one. Nigerians are indeed talking, and they're talking about the CAC's statement. Now, the Corporate Affairs Commission has indeed urged social media content creators, Instagram users, TikTok users, with large followers, those who have large followers, you know, the blue tick and so on, to register their businesses with the Commission in accordance with the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020. Now, this is coming amidst plans by the Federal Inland Revenue Services to onboard media content and influencers into its tax system. So, your favorite celebrities or your favorite online celebrities, content creators may start paying tax anytime soon because the CAC is indeed considering that. Now, the move has, however, elicited reactions from different quarters, especially in Nigeria. Everybody's saying, all of a sudden, you want to start collecting tax from the content creators, while others are also at another divide saying, yes, I think they should be paying taxes because every single week they're buying new cars. Don't take my word for it. Let's go straight to the tweets and see how Nigerians are reacting to this story. Now, the very first one coming from Paulina Ekwa Apia. Now, she says, una they buy expensive cars and houses, una no one pay tax. How the country go develop? That's what she's saying. So she's saying, for the fact that the celebrities or the social media content creators are buying new cars, of course, you know, that's a new thing, that where they pose my new whip, you know, and all that, and all the swag. She's saying, yeah, I mean, if you have to pose that way, pointing to your houses and your cars, then you might as well also pay tax. Let's see another tweet and see if you also agree with this one. This one says, the only CAC where I know now, Christ Apostolic Church. Make nobody disturb me, I beg. Okay, that's a statement from Tommy Bomb _official. Says the only CAC knows is Christ Apostolic Church, doesn't know any other one, so nobody should disturb them, please. Okay, that's fine. Let's take one more reaction quickly. Vin 007, of course, hi Vin, says emphasis on large followers. Let me just go and remove my blue tick. Dollar Team 1 That's a Yoruba language saying dollar is expensive. So let me take off this blue tick. And remember, the CAC says for those who have huge followers. So I don't know what Osage's followers look like. I don't know what your followers, you watching, what your followers look like, or you have the blue tick. But many questions about someone who's saying, what if I just create content about I and my family were having fun? Am I going to pay taxes and so on? Don't worry, it's going to be made clear. But we'd like to know what you think as well. But this is what these are what Nigerians are indeed saying concerning the CAC and the latest information. Well, away from that, let's go to another very, very interesting story concerning what Nigerians are saying. This time it's got to do with the report concerning the CBN, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, former Governor Godwin Emefiele. Now, this story is indeed changing in different form and size. Remember, just on Tuesday, we told you that the director in Abuja made a payment to news agencies and, of course, election observers. Now, the story has indeed changed. The latest story simply is that he said it was approved from the office of the president. It was signed. It also had the SGF's signature as well. And then there was a particular person, an individual who came to collect the money. Now, recall that the observer and the person in charge of following through this case, Obazi, did mention that there was a video that showed Godwin Emefiele and Boss Mustafa dragging that money out from the vault in the CBN. But Nigerians are hoping that they could see that video. But besides that, the story currently now has changed. The story simply is that the director of the CBN says the money was signed and approved for. In other words, he was countering what the SGF said, that the signatures were forged. Who do we believe? Nigerians are reacting to this story right about now, and we'll get to see some of the tweets on what Nigerians are saying. Ima Ike Ume, of course with the blue tick, watch out for the CAC, and he says this effectively means anyone can forge the signature of a sitting president and all MDAs will comply, full stop. Even foreign agents can forge signatures of the president and get away with it. Food for thought. Because how come the signatures were signed, it passed through different stages before the monies were approved? Let's see another one very quickly as we take a look at this story more. Sorry, not this tweet. Let's quickly move on to the next tweet. Not this one. Let's see if we can see more tweets on that. Yes, I got that. This one, reacting to, of course, Premium Times also posted a story. It says, if this is true, then why is only Emefiele under custody for trial and not 3 of them? 3 of them is simply means the SGF, the former president, and of course, Godwin Emefiele. Or immunity is still uncovering them, despite that they are no longer in office. Many questions to ask, and this is one of the most asked questions while we went through the back end on the social media space. Let's take the very last one, if I can simply find that one there. Yes, and this one says, why can't the living speak for himself? Now, he's alluding to the president, the former president of Nigeria. He says, Nigerian government will carry Nollywood into its reality. Let the living speak and the dead be spoken for. Anyway, this is how Nigerians are reacting to the latest story concerning the drama unfolding with the former CBN boss, talking about Godwin Emefiele. And of course, Nigerians reacting to CAC looking to tax content creators and you could say skit makers. Osage, I don't know which one caught your fancy in all of this, these stories and the reactions, most importantly. Your thoughts?
We've spoken, about the CBN governor and the controversy surrounding that since yesterday. And I've said it, it's really embarrassing. I don't think they understand what they're doing to Nigeria by making this type of statements. And from what it seems, it's like they're trying to shield Mr. President from taking any responsibility for, any of that. They've placed a charge on the CBN governor of, theft of $6.2 million, but, it's obvious that he can't just go to the CBN vault and withdraw that money. And so because of that charge, all these little details here and there are coming out, with the blame game here and there. And they still don't understand what it's doing to the image of the country, to say how easy it is to just forge a sitting president's signature. And also, I don't know if they also are forgetting that this means that there is a straight line between the CBN governor's office all the way straight to Mr. President's office. Are they saying that there's nobody in between that needs to also approve CBN spendings between the CBN governor's office all the way to the president? Or it is just straight, once the CBN needs $100 million, all it needs to write a letter for Mr. President signs. I don't think that's what it is, or that's what it should be. And that also means that the president needs, $50 million for anything. All he needs to do is call the CBN governor, write a small letter, and they exchange signatures, and that's it. So they're exposing a lot of things with this conversation that I don't think they're aware of how negatively it will affect Nigeria's image. It's a show of shame, in my opinion. And I feel like to prove that the signature was forged, the president should, of course, maybe step forward to, and stand in court, or maybe the SGF, I don't know. The FGF have been in court. And for the second conversation,
go on.
I think that Nigerians, first of all, they need to be clear on exactly who a content creator is. Because if I'm at home and I make funny videos by myself of my life, in every 2-3 days, I'm not necessarily a content creator. And you get likes, and then you get gifts.
I don't care. Obviously translate to money.
So maybe they need to be clear. If it is that, okay, when you get to the stage where you are now advertising for brands, then we can say, okay, you are a content creator and you are making money off this. But how do they prove that I was paid for it also? What if the brand decided to give me, 10 packs of their noodles? How am I going to pay a tax on that one? So these are just me, of course, me being dramatic. They need to be, very, very clear on what you call a content creator. That's one. And another thing is, I feel like Nigerians already pay taxes. Everybody who is a content creator in any way, shape, or form, anybody who is in the media space entirely, as long as you're getting paid with your company account that has been registered, you pay taxes. A lot of them already pay taxes. 7.5%, tax that already is being paid. So I think what they may be trying to do is ensure that people do not do these jobs, get paid money into their personal accounts without remitting some of it to the government.
But then again, the company is also going to take their taxes, and they're dealing with individuals. Well, it's a bit of...
because when you write an invoice, because most companies will ask that you write an invoice, right? And when you write an invoice, you're going to, of course, put the 7.5
tax.
And that's, I mean, except they're saying, okay, everybody must remit, or some people are not remitting. I don't know what the story is, but I'm sure that most content creators already pay taxes, or at least already have that.
But now they want to make it official. And not just that, they're saying all content creators, because you could pay directly to a Johansson, directly to my account.
Yes.
Of course, I pay my taxes. But now they want you to register with them. So you have to come up with maybe Johansson skits.
So, so it means as a content creator, you need to register your brand name.
Your brand name, your company with them, and then start paying taxes. Because those houses are not...
Again, they need to be clear exactly on who is a content creator and who's not a content creator. And who exactly can be taxed and cannot be taxed. Not everybody would just randomly be taxed. There maybe also needs to be a bracket. That if you're a content creator on this level, then you'll be taxed so and so. If you're not a content creator,
that's exactly,
because any random person who's just making funny videos and and they give freebies, it's not necessarily a content creator. That's one. Then the person who I saw some very ignorant tweet, the very first one who said, "Oh, you're buying houses and cars." That's not enough for you to see me as a target. The fact that I bought a car doesn't mean that I'm now suddenly a government target, that, I must be making money, so I must pay taxes. That's just a greedy Nigerian speaking.
It doesn't mean that they don't pay their taxes.
Paulina, or whatever her name is. She doesn't even, I don't think she's Nigerian. I don't think she's Nigerian, and that might be one of those bots.
She seems to be Ghanaian. She seems to be Ghanaian.
It sounds like one of those bots that they pay 500 naira to tweet in favor of the government.
Anyway,
government policy.
That's all of what Nigerians are saying. You do let us know what your thoughts are as well. You can follow us on all socials. Let us know. There are more reactions and more stories as well, as Nigerians are taking it to the social media space to react. I would like to hear from you. But on that note, to wrap up Breakfast Central this morning on a Thursday morning, thanking you so much for joining us. It's been a fruitful conversation. Nigerians, stay strong. Hopefully, things will turn out right.
Absolutely. See you again tomorrow morning. I am Osaogi Ogbawam.
And I'm Joe Hansen. Good morning.